Hello and welcome to Merry Mindfulness. I'm your host, Paul Smith from Word Gets Around, and your presence here today is very, very welcome. To say 2020 has had its challenges is a little bit of an understatement. It's affected us all, so many more, and some obviously much more than others. There is good news this week with the vaccine approved for us to use next week in the UK, paving the way for mass vaccination. Merry Mindfulness is a collaboration with our good friend Teresa Wort. She's a qualified mindfulness and compassion teacher based here in Somerset. Teresa also helps people with anxiety, stress, and chronic pain. This year has been a bit all over the place for all of us, really. Often we're so busy living in the past or worrying about what's going to happen in the future, we actually miss living in the here and now. And this is why Merry Mindfulness is here for you, a time to pause, reflect, and learn new techniques. Take some time for you and more consideration and thoughts for the ones that you love. Now, if I told you this time last year that Teresa would be on Facebook, she would have had a bit of a giggle. If I'd said she would be uploading her own videos online, she would have belly laughed. Now, if I told you she would be on Facebook making videos and then being live, she would have roared on the floor laughing. So wonderful that she's here today to join me. Please feel free to like and love, add your comments and questions. And I am delighted to welcome Teresa. Hello, Teresa.
Hello, Paul. What an introduction. That is so true. In fact, I'm sat here now feeling really quite clammy. But it's a shock, you know. I mean, it's so true. A year ago, I mean, I've been in business, 4 years now, teaching. And no, I don't want I didn't want a website. Do you remember? No, I don't want a website.
Yeah.
No, I don't want Facebook. I just want to help people. You know, I feel that's my calling. That's my motivation, what I'm embracing and doing. So, yeah. So for you to get me on, well, obviously you built my website and then Facebook, but you've got to tell them there was a bit of a catch with Facebook. He was really kind, listeners. He said to me, Teresa, if you go on Facebook, I'll do this merry mindfulness thing with the run up to Christmas. Well, girl, couldn't miss that opportunity. So here I am. So, yeah, so it's lovely to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I said this year's kind of flown by in some ways, but we've kind of lived it a bit different to other years. Obviously, stop, start. The shops are open again today. People are about. You've been shielding, haven't you? And it's just been a bit all over the place, really. Which is when we think about it, we're not used to this. We're used to kind of a normal routine, aren't we? And once that's disrupted, it's a bit different.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, gosh, routine. Routine is so important. You know, it's something we all need. But in the same breath, it has been extremely tough. And for some people, tougher than others. And it's so important that people don't feel embarrassed to say that they're struggling, they're finding it difficult. You know, you're only a phone call away from somebody that cares. And that can be a friend, it can be a relative, it can be a loved one. So you know, do reach out. Don't suffer on your own. But the good news, I mean, we've got the vaccine on the horizon. So, you know, since March the 20th, I think I've been out less than a handful, because when Boris said I could go out to play on the 2nd of August, within 2 days, the surgery rang up and said your bloods are awful and I had to stay in again. But the good news was we did go into town, and I was big and brave, and we went into Mr. Miles' tea rooms. And I said, I'm really nervous because it had been the first time. So they were kind enough to give us a table upstairs by an open window, and it felt wonderful. So, but otherwise, I've got used to it. But I suppose I do mindfulness. And mindfulness is all about your awareness of your experience right here, right now, in this moment. Hence me feeling a bit nervous and apprehensive because I'm live on Facebook. How scary is that? So, when you're present and here in the moment, then you aren't looking back, because most of us look back. And yes, we do look back with fondness. Oh, that was a brilliant party and that was great. But we also look back with silly regrets, like, oh, did she really mean she didn't like that? Or did he really mean that? and we play these conversations and how differently we would have reacted. So that it doesn't do any good. It's gone, it's past, it's history. And then when we look to the future, we worry. We just worry. We don't, okay, there might be a great holiday or a get together we're looking forward to, but we're still worrying. So by being here and present, it helps. And that's how I came to it. So if I go back, gosh, nearly 10 years, 9 years, I had been diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis, hence why I'd taken drugs and got a suppressed immune system. And I was in an awful lot of pain and needed some extra help. And mindfulness obviously helps with pain, hence that I teach people. But when I went to see the lady for this pain management session, she then asked, was there anything else? And I'm also idiopathic anaphylaxis. So I've nearly died a few times. And now, then I was able to get that in a good place. Right up to, in fact, the last time I had one, just a couple of years back. And I was even able to have a laugh with the paramedic as he said to my husband, what's her name? He said, Teresa. And he leaned down and he said, how old are you, Teresa? I said, I'm 21. And Stephen said, no, she's not. But I thought, if this was the end, then I wanted to go out having a laugh. So I'm in a good place about that side. If it's my time's up tomorrow, then it's up tomorrow. And that's a really nice place to be in, actually. Feels really comfortable. But I had to then learn to not worry, whereas we used to. And I'll be honest, even now, if we walk out the door and we have forgotten an EpiPen between us, then we're not long before we come back home.
Right.
It's getting in. And I nearly had one last year, and we were really calm and controlled about it and handled it really well. So that's what's brought me to mindfulness. But to teach, do that in any time like Paul, because people know Teresa and she talks. Okay. But to teach, I ended up breaking my leg and I led in a field for 2 hours. So with a broken leg, what do? You do mindfulness. I don't know if I'd have coped so well if I'd known I was going to be there for 2 hours, but I was. And then when I went into hospital, I was in there for 10 days. Then I was unable to put my foot on the ground for 8 weeks. And then I couldn't walk in total for 18 months. So my mindfulness was like, it was just my brick. It really helped me, even to the point that the doctors were impressed with what I could do with my mindfulness. Like, wow. I know it's a bit like showing off, but I straightened my leg. Because this young doctor that looked like a grandchild came up to me and said, I need to straighten your leg before you go to X-ray. And I said, no way. So I said, I'll do it myself. So, if you get yourself in a good place and you're using your breath, you can control an amazing amount. Because what we do with anything, whether it's stressful or painful, is we have that initial pain or that initial bit of stress. And then we bring to it what we call secondary pain.
Right.
So it's your emotions, it's how you respond to it. Does that make sense?
Mm.
It's like, and I'm going back, because obviously I'm of an age. And so I'm going back many years ago. A friend taught me then, she said, it's not the event that's the problem, it's the way you think and feel about it. And it's so true. Things happen. And it's our response. So a bit like COVID. Some people have been able to take it in their stride. Others, it's frightened them to death. And, we're all different. So, yeah.
And in the last week, you've been away, haven't you? Let's talk about that.
I didn't go physically away, but I was a bit at home. Yeah, so husband was delighted. I did a retreat. So part of my CPD is obviously I keep up to date with all that I teach. And also part they expect you to do is a retreat. So I did a silent retreat for 7 days at home. Well, actually, after the first day, I could see I was having a good time, but Stephen was looking a bit concerned that I didn't actually speak at all. And it did feel a bit mean. So in the end, we would speak and say polite things like, what would you like for tea? Shall we go for a walk now? Is that okay? because obviously, you still went for a walk and things, but it was lovely. So we didn't have any heavy conversations. It was fabulous. And so I learned a lot. It was really good, the lectures that we had, and then loads of meditation. But as you've probably heard me say to you before, when you practice mindfulness, you use that word, it's practice. So if you were going to run a marathon tomorrow, then you'd go to the gym, you'd start running, you'd get yourself fit enough to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Well, to do mindfulness, to be able to maintain keeping your brain in a good place, yeah, so keeping your emotions and everything in a good place, then you need to keep practicing. So I meditate. Don't put people off, because you don't have to do as much as Teresa does. But I do my formal meditation every morning when I get up, and then I'll do another one later after this. Well, a bit later because I'm teaching straight after this, which is a bit bad organisation. But come tea time, I will meditate again. And then during the day, we do lots of informal meditations. So what I'm aiming to do with you over these next coming weeks is just teaching people a few little tricks and tips and techniques that they could use that will hopefully help them.
Brilliant, because I think, yeah, we're speaking to all the people that I've spoken to this year, and I mean, for one, obviously what's happened this year for me, it was a need to channel it into something that has to be a positive out of it. So I'm doing these videos. It's been my way of fighting against the demon of Corona, of how it's impacted, rather to have some kind of control over it in terms of doing something because that's the thing, is for a lot of people, it's been out of control, and we're being told what to do, and our lives are being moved about. And lots of the people that I know, and some of them that are joining now, it's quite exhausting being positive all the time when you're on your own. You have time to reflect. But certainly having, like you say, the techniques to actually take that time out is going to be really invaluable. And I was in town this morning. Of course, the shops are open today, and it's very busy. And there are lots of shopkeepers, they're having to put on a brave face, but they're all very unsure, isn't they? We're unsure about what's going to happen, what's going to change. So it's invaluable for them, really.
Yeah, and control. I mean, that's a brilliant word you've used, because when I was diagnosed with these anaphylactic shocks and didn't know why, and then in the end, the consultant, he'd written about me in the Lancet, he'd taken me on conferences, and he had to say, you've got to learn to live with it. And, I really flipped then. And my doctor said to me, it's because you're not in control. And so I think I've been lucky enough to understand that I learned then. So the biggest thing that I've learned with control, and you can't control other people. So you can't control politicians, the weather, people not wearing a face mask, people not giving you the distance. But you are able to make choices for yourself. And that's another big word we use in mindfulness. Mindfulness teaches you that there's a space between something making you react to how you respond. So and again, we talk about habitual behavior, because often somebody will say something that totally rattles your cage, and off you go. So there is that space. And so you can only be responsive for yourself. So you can take precautions. You can decide, well, I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to give people distance. You can't control everybody else. You're not able to. And then some things we have to just learn to accept. And acceptance is another big word in mindfulness, because I had to accept I had psoriatic arthritis. And for 3 years, I put up a huge fight, because you do. I was healthy. I didn't take paracetamol. I was like, what do you mean I've got psoriatic arthritis? I want a second opinion. And I had one of those too. But anyway, it's, and eventually you have to learn. So mindfulness is totally my savior without it. And it's lovely because the people that I've been teaching are having those same challenges. I've had people with Parkinson's, arthritis, fibromyalgia, cancer, living with illnesses that none of us have requested, none of us want. But it suddenly turns up on our doorstep. And so, yeah, it's a challenge. But that's what I feel is great about it. It can help, and then it's got lots of other benefits. You don't have to be a poorly bunny. I have taught people that have just been curious about mindfulness, and that's another one of our words. To keep that curiosity like a child. Children are so brilliant. They can teach us so much. We should stop and watch them.
Yeah.
They look at everything with a child's eye, with that beginner's mind, as we call it. They take it all in. They touch, they feel, they look, they smell. Yes, they stick it in their mouths. And we lose that as we get older. We decide we're an expert on everything. Well, the brain does.
Yeah.
I do this brilliant technique thing with you, and it's so amazing when I say to you, it's okay. Your brain has instantly gone into a file and it's looking and going, yeah, I know everything about stones. I know what she's going to say and do. And it's that habitual behavior, which is good because it stops you getting run over. You've learned your green cross code, to stop and look left and right and all the rest. But there's an awful lot of other things that we do that we don't need to. So if you think when you were young, you were influenced by your parents. So we all did as we were told. Hopefully my mum's not watching this. And so we did as we were told. And then we went to school, and then you're influenced by your teacher, and you come home and they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Then you go to senior school. Well, you suddenly hit 14, you know it all now. Nobody can teach you anything,
I got two of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And then later in life, you suddenly learn things. And then again, later in life, you change your ways and thoughts. And that is so good. Go with that. So many people feel that they've got to stick to what they believed in, but nothing stays the same. Everything changes. And there is nothing. You try and name me anything that doesn't change. Everything changes. And when you can learn to accept that, that is tremendous, empowering as well. Because generally we crave to be having a good time, to be happy, to wanting nice things. And when something comes along we don't like, we go, oh, and we push it away, and we don't want to know, and we push it away, and we bury our heads, and we get caught up in work because we don't want to face that. We don't want to know about that. We don't want to discuss that. We don't want to go there. There's so many things, words that we use that are so unhealthy for us. Whereas if we could learn, and that's what mindfulness is teaching you, it's teaching you to accept whatever comes up, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. And when it's unpleasant, you hold it gently. And this is where the compassion then comes in. I talk to myself. I used to talk to my leg. You talk to yourself in respect like you would your girls. You speak to them lovingly and kind. Okay, I know you shout occasionally, but generally
Yeah.
you're kind and loving to them, and you treat yourself the same way. Whereas people tend to give themselves a hard time, and they don't. And that's our culture, our upbringing. That stiff upper lip and all of that, especially where men are concerned. And I've taught an awful lot of gentlemen, which is a real pleasure. But they just don't, they well, no, you don't want to be in a group. They come and chat to me on their own, sort of thing. So obviously now I'm teaching by Zoom, which you must have been amazed at, Paul.
Yeah, I know.
Get to grips with Zoom. So everything changed for me. So back in March, I had to, and that's it. You have to embrace it. If something's going on, you can only go with it. There will be another Christmas. We can't have big family. We haven't seen the grandchildren since last Christmas Day. That's really sad. But we do see them. They pop up on FaceTime.
Yeah, you've got that.
And we accepted that. Okay, they live up the road a few hundred miles. But in our minds now, we accept, they're in Australia, New Zealand, Canada. We see them on FaceTime. Stephen's dad, he's 90. We haven't been able to see him because he lives across in West Sussex, and there's just too many breaks. And I won't tell you what the doctor said to me about me thinking I could pop in a service station and go across to Sussex. He said, no way. And you've got to look after yourself and look after loved ones, because we will have Christmas next year. We will have Easter next year. And we should never give up on hope, because that will be there as well. But I do talk a lot, Paul. Was there anything else you want to
No, well,
ask?
we're going to practice. We're going to look at something in a minute, aren't we? We're going to go through.
Yes.
But I've got a couple of questions, Teresa. So I'll pop one of them to you now from
Okay.
our good friend Jane. So Jane's put, how can I use mindfulness quickly when I suddenly feel anxious?
Oh, well,
Good.
because we're going to talk senses, Jane, in a moment. So when you suddenly feel anxious, the most important thing you do is breathe, right? If you watched I'm doing a mindful advent calendar every day. It's a bit scary. I'm putting that on Facebook. You must be so impressed, Paul.
Yeah.
And it's going out on LinkedIn as well. And when something happens, we go and we hold our breath. If somebody says something that's taken us by surprise, we hold our breath. When we're concentrating, you know what it's like, you're trying to do something, you hold your breath. When you're working out at the gym or you're doing your yoga or stretches, you hold your breath. So when something has made you a bit anxious, our breath will get faster. We'll hold it and it'll get faster. So the best thing you can do straight away, Jane, is take in a long breath and a lovely long exhalation out. Only 2 or 3. You don't need to do many. And then, because again, with mindfulness, it's about being here and present and going with our breath. But when you're in that scary moment, the fight, flight, freeze, then just take some breaths. And that then stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest, that just calms you down. And then the greatest thing of all to do that nobody knows you're doing, especially now we're in the winter, is wriggle your toes. All right? Because we spend an awful lot of time up here in our heads. So the reason we do like a body scan meditation is to get us out of here and into our body. And when we're in our body, we are aware, we are present. But our body can often tell us. So possibly, Jane, your body may have been telling you before you felt anxious that you're feeling anxious. My tummy gets a bit tight and a bit, like, oh, yeah, Paul's going to come on, I'm going to be on Facebook in a minute. How scary is that? So you get a bit anxious.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take yourself down to your feet, down to your toes, and just wriggle them, and you can do that now. Nobody knows that you are wriggling your toes, but you're grounding yourself. You're bringing yourself back down. You're calming yourself down, and you're helping. Does that help?
Yeah, sounds brilliant.
Good.
I mean, I had this yesterday actually. I was very anxious about a call I had to make to a client because I was beating myself up a bit that I was on a different page to where he was. And actually, you make things in your head worse than they are. And I felt that knotted stomach feeling. I mean, that was one of the big things about moving here to Hesticombe was obviously having this wonderful place to leave the office, to force me to go outside and take some time to breathe, as you say. And I was in the office, found myself pacing up and down, feeling knotted stomach. And I went downstairs, and they had the Christmas tree up in the hallway, which was like, oh, that's amazing. And it was the first time I got those Christmas kind of, tingles of like, I forgot it's Christmas, isn't it? Of course it is. It's our third Christmas here. Yeah, and I just went outside and I just sat down, and it was funny if there was a squirrel squawk, and squirrels make quite a funny. They make like a bird-like sound. I know the sound off by heart, as you know. I'm a bit of a squirrel whisperer.
Yeah.
But I just went and sat down and ate my lunch on the step and just listened to it, and it was making this funny noise. Yeah, and then before I knew it, I'd sort of thought, well, I'm still a bit anxious, but it is what it is. And actually, it went really, really well. It's like these things usually do. And then you feel a bit silly going, but yeah. So I think that's great in terms of the breathing.
No. In fact, we're going to cover that one next week. I'm going to talk about thoughts and that anxious feeling. And give
I thought you meant squirrels, not squirrels.
No,
right.
I won't talk about squirrels next week. But
Okay.
we have them in the garden. And I must listen out because I've never noticed it make a noise.
We'll have a chat about that. I've got another question for you from my good friend Bethan. Teresa, any tips for pre or post Zoom call mindfulness techniques to stop them being so brain draining?
So she was speaking of before?
Before and after Zoom calls. Do you get, when you go on a call like this, do you use any techniques for that?
Yeah. I mean, I think you heard me say to you, it's all right, Paul, I just got to get myself a bit mindful. And I did teach somebody that's a police person, I won't say man or lady, And that same anxiety, we get anxious about Zoom. This person was anxious when the blue lights, so the before the blue light goes off and arriving, doing the work and afterwards. And it's the same principle with both. You need that calming. So it's our breath, it's being in touch with our senses and our body. So before you start, just now when we were sat here, then I was totally grounded. My feet were on the floor. I was in touch with my feet. I was in touch with my breath. I was aware of sounds, of what I could see, of what I could taste. And that's all the senses I just covered, yeah? So that's the important thing that you do. And then afterwards, do the same. You've got time. Better still get up and move, because movement's important. And I'm hoping that we might do some movement or not, because we do what we call mindful movement, which is in tune with your breath. But just get up and move, go outside, have some fresh air, take a few deep breaths of fresh air, which is good for you. But it's so important to make that move and have some water. Just another quick one for you. When you're anxious or you're feeling a bit stressed, do you know your body doesn't know whether you're nutritionally stressed, physically or mentally? Right. So bear that in mind. It could well be that Bethan's due for her sandwich, but she's got another Zoom meeting. So have a handful of nuts or something. Oh yeah, a squirrel thing going on here now.
There you go.
But no, and we're going to be doing that as well next week and the following weeks. At the end of every session that we do, I will do a short meditation that will set you up then for the afternoon. But we're going to do one today in a moment, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's just going to get you in touch with your senses.
Okay, let's go for it.
Yeah. So was there something that I was going to give you that you may not have?
What have you got there? Oh, I haven't got any.
Here you are. Take one.
Right. Oh,
got it?
Yeah, thank you. Do I just choose one? That's very kind of you.
No, you're very welcome. So if anybody else has got one, then we can have a little mindful moment with a sweet.
Okay.
Okay, so hopefully everyone's joining it. It could be their lunch. It could be their cup of coffee. So the first thing you do is you look at it. You bring your eyes. You notice. So I'm noticing how pretty the wrapping is. What have you gone for? I've got a Malteser.
Oh, I've got Galaxy.
Wow. And then you rip it open. And you notice in your fingers how much pressure or how awkward or difficult that is. And then you take the chocolate out. And I'm going to place it on my hand like so.
Okay.
So everyone's now balancing their sandwich on their hand. But then look at it. I'm going to put it down because I want to see what Paul's doing.
All right.
Not that I'm a control freak, but I just want to make sure he's playing the game. Okay, so you've got it there. So now you can look at it. And I want you to swing it around and look from all angles. Look at the shape. Look at the chocolate.
Bethan's got a chocolate digestive.
Excellent. So she's seeing all those ripples of chocolate and the actual crumb. So you do that. Next thing I want you to do is put it by your ear. Nah, you can't hear a thing, can you? But, that's what you'd do if it was something that was noisy. But hopefully we listened to that noise.
Yeah.
Bethan, when she was breaking into the packet for the fourth time. Sorry, Bethan. So you now are going to use your nose. Oh, yeah.
That's good.
Oh, that is chocolate. And Bethan, she'll be getting a mixture of the wheat and the chocolate. And now I want you to follow my instructions. Don't speak or anything. You are going to just take a bite and keep it on your tongue. No chewing, doing anything else like that. Just put it on your tongue and just hold it there. And already the mouth is wanting to, I can see the brain's going, I want to chew it. I want to enjoy it. So have a little chew. Then when you're ready, swallow. But be aware as you swallow that it goes down your throat. And now already your mind is saying, well, let's have the rest. That was hardly anything.
Yeah.
But can you see? And that's how we do. So if you ate mindfully like that with all your meals, even if you aim to do the first 3 mouthfuls, but often we eat more than we need. Now, again, I'm going back probably 20, 30 years ago again, because over the years I was in sales. So you had all these brilliant speakers. And this guy, it was amazing. We were sat at a dinner table. Try this, girls. And boys that don't want to eat more than they should. And we all had our desserts and we were all looking forward to eating it. And he said, let me show you how you do this. He said, just have 3 mouthfuls. Just enjoy it, 3 mouthfuls. Then he picked up the salt cellar and he poured it all over the rest. How cool was that? I mean, I don't do that. If I'm not going to eat anything more, I hand it over to Stephen. Or now, and an awful lot of couples do this, we'll share something.
Yeah.
So I'll have 2 or 3, and sometimes I just try to get down to 2, and on a good day, 1. But I think you can never do just 1 of anything. I couldn't have 1 biscuit or 1 chocolate. It's always got to be 2. But it controls how much you're having, because we all know it never tastes as good when you get to the 6th one as it did to the first one.
Yeah.
And it's the same with drinking. I've helped, I'm going to say gentlemen, it has been gentlemen that, have enjoyed a drink. And often they don't even notice the first one going down. Whereas if you took the time, and this is where Martin would like, I know he does his cocktails, but he would appreciate that, you've chosen what you're going to have. You've looked at it, you've read about it, you know what it should taste like, you've got it at the right temperature, you've chosen your glass, you've polished your glass, you're looking at your glass. Oh, it's going to ruin everybody's drink this evening. Or you're getting your gin and tonic ready, and then you pour and you measure and you pour. And then you use your senses again to smell and enjoy, and then just take a little sip and enjoy that moment. And if you're wanting to give up smoking, you can do the same with smoking. I have had people cut back on their smoking because I've ruined it for them. So if you don't want to hear, I'd say switch off now, turn away, or hit the sign button. But if you use the same with a cigarette, you're dying for a cigarette, and obviously this is harder for me to do, but again, you get it out. So do the whole pleasure thing, but this time really stick your nose in the packet. Okay, they might enjoy the smell, but really smell that and think, okay, and then light it and do it, but really be aware, and then be aware of what you're breathing in, and then be aware of where it's going in your body. Okay, you might get me banned now, so I'll stop there. But you get in my drift. You suddenly realize, and then afterwards, smell your fingers, have a smell of your jumper. You can soon cut down and put yourself off by being mindful of that cigarette. And it is a habit, and it's addictive. So it's a bit like the same with chocolate, biscuits, wine. We can get addictive to them. And that's a whole nother topic, especially when it comes to mobile phones and social media.
Yeah.
I'm assuming by now I've probably gone off time, and as I said, I'm teaching. Hopefully my next client is watching this actually, but I'm teaching at 1:30.
Yeah.
But has that all helped, Paul?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, can I enjoy the rest of my chocolate? I was holding, it's melting now. Right.
You can. And so shall I get everyone to do this little practice? Have we got time for that? Is everyone left?
Yeah.
It's still there.
Oh, it's melted a bit now. Well, I think interesting you touched on that about the addiction and social media, because I was listening to Radio 2 on the way to the office, and Jeremy Vine had the gentleman that invented the like button on Facebook. And obviously there's a really good documentary on that on Netflix. The social dilemma about that kind of need to, that craving for, whether it's gambling or whether it's that same endorphin, isn't it? That you're wanting that same hit.
Yeah, because somebody puts up a picture of pussycats playing, and then somebody else will find a better picture, tigers playing or lions playing, and then there's all this, but I didn't get many hits. Oh, let me find something else. And you're hooked on it. Again, I've had a few clients that have come off. So if any of them now know that I'm on Facebook, they'll be going, excuse me?
You can blame me, it's all right.
But hopefully I won't be addicted to it. I'm still trying to master it, which is a challenge. Right, so have we got some people still listening, Paul?
Yeah, we can do this.
Okay,
finish up.
So if they'd all like to settle into a little seating moment, obviously please don't do this if you're driving. And I just want you to trust, Teresa. We won't leave you there hanging and not tell you to open your eyes again, but just close your eyes. Okay? And we're going to focus on each one of our 5 senses. So with your eyes closed, what can you hear right now inside your body? Maybe you can hear yourself breathing, or even awareness of your heart. What can you hear inside your body? Now shift your attention. What can you hear inside the room? And moving your attention a bit further, what can you hear outside? Is there anything going on outside now that you hadn't noticed before, that you've noticed now? And moving your attention to the sense of smell. And focusing on your smell. What can you smell? Maybe you can't smell anything, and that's okay. But maybe you're aware of the air coming in through your nostrils, and it can feel quite cool as it comes in and then warm as it comes back out. So are you aware of that? Now move your awareness to taste. By all means, you can use your tongue around your cheeks and across your teeth. And as it is lunchtime, I expect most people are going, gosh, maybe I shouldn't have had that onion and cheese sandwich, but hey, that chocolate was good and I wouldn't mind some more. And then your awareness of touch. What can you feel? Can you feel your bottom in the chair, or can you feel your feet on the floor, your hands on your lap? Are you aware of your clothes against your skin? Now I'd like you just to open your eyes a moment. And what can you see? Just look around the room. What can you see? What colours and textures? And can you see anything that you've never noticed before in that room? And when you're ready, if you can close your eyes again. And I want you to think back to the beginning of the practice. How do you feel right now compared to how you felt when we started? And when you're ready, if you'd like to open your eyes. Bit of an adjustment, and we finished. There you go. So hopefully everyone's feeling a bit more chilled, maybe. But it's just giving them the awareness. So if you can just be aware of your breath and your senses, they will ground you. They will make you here and present. So any anxious moments, just get with your senses, with your breath. And then next week, we will talk about thoughts and your reaction, that I could have helped you with a technique that you could have done yesterday. But I imagine people want to get back to work now.
But yeah, well, I got feel very nice, nicely relaxed, and at ease. That's very, very powerful. Like that.
Yeah,
Very good. And it's setting me up nicely for the afternoon, Teresa. And for lots of people listening as well. So
yeah. Well, if there's something they particularly would like to hear next week, then do say so. But next week we will again have a little short meditation just before they go back into the office. So thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, Teresa. Well, thank you very much. I'll see you next Wednesday. And everybody to tune in then. All right. I'll see you in a bit.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care. Bye. Okay, everybody, just to finish up, hope you enjoyed the first of Merry Mindfulness with Teresa Wort. Please visit Teresa's Facebook page. She posts lots of videos and comments on there and useful tips and extra. So please like her page. Please share it with your friends. And join us next Wednesday for the next Merry Mindfulness. If you've got any questions or comments, please direct them to Teresa on her Facebook page. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Any feedback is welcome. Many thanks. Take care.